This October, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we're sharing a story about advocacy, resilience, and the bond that built a family. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful medicine is listening to your own body.
Statistical unlikeliness is not the same thing as impossible. And I
Mm,
think that was really hard for me to wrap my head around initially. And you get all those questions of like the why me, why, how did I end up getting breast cancer at 31?
That's Caroline, an intended mom whose breast cancer diagnosis changed everything about her family's future. And this is Janna, the surrogate who not only carried Caroline's child, but whose own intuition saved her life after delivery.
I laid down and got a really, really bad headache.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I went and checked my blood pressure and it was even higher. I just kept thinking, like, gosh, if I didn't decide to go in, if I didn't listen to that little internal voice saying, like, let's just go get this checked out. I mean, who knows? I could have had a stroke.
Together, they prove that trusting your gut can be life saving and even life giving.
It wasn't my plan A, but it was like the most incredible plan B. And I feel really lucky.
In this conversation, you'll see how Caroline and Janna turned fear into strength, statistics into hope, and intuition into a beautiful new life. Enjoy. I really am just so excited because I feel like you guys just have such a beautiful story. Before we let's go back in time a little bit. Caroline, you have two amazing kiddos and
Mhm.
you were about to try for baby number 3 when you self-discovered breast cancer. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit more about that.
Sure. So it was actually about, it'll be 2 years mid-October when I was diagnosed. So I was diagnosed October 2023. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which
Mhm.
I didn't realize at the time, but made it, I guess, a little bit more appropriate that I've been doing self exams for a while, but
Mhm.
um, after breastfeeding 2 kids, I was like, I know myself. I'm not worried. I feel like when you're breastfeeding, like you're very self aware of what's going on.
Sure.
But in the summer of 2023, I had weaned my second child from breastfeeding. And as we all know, you lose a ton of volume in your breast when you're
Mhm.
breastfeeding. So like when you actually are done, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I left with? Basically nothing. Um, and I was in the shower one day and felt what was it wasn't small. It was actually like pretty large. And I was
Mhm.
kind of surprised that I hadn't noticed it. It was on the top side of my right breast and initially wasn't really that concerned because I was like, I mean, I'm sure that it's just from breastfeeding. Like that was my an immediate thought. I had had mastitis like probably 4 times with my first child
Oh.
and then twice with my second. And I just knew that that was like something that I got. So I was like, no big deal.
Mhm.
I don't feel sick, but maybe I have something. So I went to my OB, showed her, she did a full exam and said, I'm not worried. It doesn't feel like anything concerning. I was a
Wow.
little confused that there was no imaging, but like I was 31. It's not like I was, and I have no family history of anything. Like my mom had a skin cancer scare, and that was like the closest my family has come to cancer, including grandparents. They died of dementia and old age. So like I was not on my radar, honestly.
Yeah.
2 months later, and this is where it's going to get a little woo woo, but I promise that's not who I was. It's kind of who I am now, but it's not who I was. Um, I was in a yoga class on a work retreat. I had like signed up. We were in a different town and in rural Wisconsin. And I had signed up just because I had an hour of free time. And it happened to be their cancer survivors yoga class. And I was sitting in the class with all these other young women wearing pins showing what cancer they'd survived. And we started the class. I was in downward dog and I was like, I have cancer. I know it sounds nuts, but I had to leave. Like I was so certain that I had breast cancer. So I
Oh,
left.
wow.
I think there's those moments when you're closer to yourself. I don't know. Yoga for me is one of those things where you're like
Mhm.
very in tune with your body and your mind. And I try to really focus on like the practice rather than thinking about the million things I have to do.
Mhm.
Anyway, came home after the retreat. Had immediately scheduled a follow up with my doctor's office, but I'd asked for a different person because I was like, I know that she doesn't think this is anything and she's going to think I'm crazy. I don't want to be talked out of this. So I asked for someone and she did an exam and she was like, this does not feel worrisome, but I'll give you a referral. Called the referral, immediately got in because I was like adamant that something was not right. And of course, by the time that the actual appointment came around, like 3 days later, I had talked myself out of it. I was like, you're being crazy. Like, I'm glad you're doing something about this. This is my internal monologue, but you're being crazy. I wasn't crazy. It was stage 2. It was the size of a lime, and it was in 2 lymph nodes. And again, I had no family history, no genetics, no risk factors. All the risk factors they say are like living an unhealthy life. I'm like, okay, we all do things that are a little unhealthy here or there, right? Like I have a glass of wine once a week. But like there's really no explanation. My cancer was hormone positive, HER2 negative, very hormone positive. And by the grace of God, it was not aggressive, which is unusual given my age. Because being 31, you normally get stuck with the super aggressive subtypes. I did not. I had a grade 2 tumor, which if you know the breast cancer subtyping, I think it's actually all solid tumors. They're graded 1 through 3, and 3 tends to be more aggressive, growing faster, and it's pretty exponential. So like the difference between 2 and 3 is a lot. Mine was grade 2. Based on the size, it had likely been there for years because it wasn't growing very fast, and we have no idea what caused it. I tell myself every day that I'm like the luckiest unlucky person on the planet, right? Because A, I found it in time for it to be treated, and I'm totally fine now. I'm in the clear. And B, because like it was treatable. Like, breast cancer treatment has come so far. I didn't lose my hair. I didn't have chemo. I went through a double mastectomy. So I immediately, like a month later, went through double mastectomy right to implants, and then did radiation. And I've been on an oral, I guess you call it like an oral chemo. I'll be on that for 2 years, and I'll be in full menopause via a shot for 10 years. So to get back to the point, all of our dreams of having this enormous family were pretty quickly squashed once we realized that it was hormone positive cancer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So just going back to, there's so much to just unfold in that.
A lot there. I know.
Yeah. But I feel like women in general, when it comes to just general health, I feel like there's so much advocating that we have to do for ourselves. And there's so much, like you said, you knew for a fact in that yoga class that you had cancer, and 3 days later you had talked yourself out of it. And I feel like there's just all of this outward just chatter that makes us second guess how we are feeling. And it's almost, you were very specific. I loved that you were so specific about, I don't want to go see the same doctor because I know this person is already going to say no to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if you just accepted that. Like, who knows?
Well, it's funny. We can get into it later, but I know Janna has a very similar story. I think there's so much of, like, I come from the world of finance where there's a feedback mechanism, right? Like you get something wrong and the output doesn't make sense. And in your body, the only feedback mechanism are symptoms. And if you don't have symptoms, most people are like, well, then there's nothing wrong. Like I didn't have any symptoms of anything. So, if you're trying to reason between the rational, the logical, and like the irrational and feeling based, it's really hard to make sense of where those two intersect, right? Like I had this feeling that I had breast cancer, and I had a lump, but nothing else about my day-to-day like pointed to breast cancer. So it's really easy to look up the statistics and be like, okay, what is it? I think it's 4 in 200 women under 40, or 1 in 200 women under 40. That's what it is. 0.05% of women under 40 will get breast cancer. And I was like, what are the odds that I'm that 1 in 200? Like pretty slim. But, you could be the one. I don't know why you wouldn't be the one. And if you have a lump, like you're already not in a great position in terms of being that 1 out of 200. I think the term is medical gaslighting, where people kind of write off your symptoms or say you're being crazy. Luckily, I trusted myself, but yeah, it was not an obvious thing that I had breast cancer.
Right. No, for sure. Obviously, you were you get the diagnosis, you go through just all of that. And as you said, it kind of just totally derailed your family building journey. Tell us a little bit about that shift and how you guys navigated from, you know, everything's kind of, fine in our world to this total shift.
Yeah. So we had our first two kids really close together
Uh-huh.
accidentally. Honestly, it was not on purpose. They're 15 months apart. Um, they're best friends. So in retrospect, it was great. But at the time, it was very chaotic. And so we had
Mm-hmm.
planned to take a little bit of a longer time between our second and third. But having a third was never like a question. I'm one of four kids. My husband's one of six. So we were like, four is our minimum. That's always been our operating assumption. Our like I think a year into our relationship, we've now been together almost 10 years. No, 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. A year into our relationship, we picked out baby names, and we've had an updated
Oh.
list on our phone, like on a shared notes app. And we updated every time we go out for dinner, just the two of us, we like brainstorm new names. We go through Ancestry because we like family names the best. It's like our favorite thing is to go with like a kind of a take on a family name. And so we still have quite a few more names to use. We're very excited to have more. But to your point, Whitney, we were like certain we wanted more. So right after I found out that I was pretty unlikely to be able to carry more, either because chemo would put me into menopause or because the treatment that I did end up on would force me to be in menopause for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because the hormones are what cause the cancer to grow. And so taking away those hormones is what would theoretically prevent that from coming back.
Right.
We started doing like math on a worksheet. We were like, okay, so most of the newer age studies are showing that you need to be on treatment for about 2.5 years until you can get pregnant again. And that is like usually it's newer, but that's what a lot of doctors are now saying. You have to do 2.5 years on treatment. You can take a hiatus to have a child, then you have to go right back on. So we were doing all this math, like, okay, our oldest and our third would be like 7 years apart. And in that moment, we were like, that's like the best case scenario if I'm allowed to take a hiatus. So, like, pretty much a month into me knowing that I had breast cancer, we were like, nope, we're doing a carrier. We're going to find someone who's going to help us, and we're going to do this a different way. I didn't have any fertility problems with my first two kids. So, this was like the last place that I expected to be, like
Yeah.
researching surrogacy agencies. I had a friend who had gone through fertility issues and ended up with a surrogate, but that was like the only reference point that I had. And so we knew November 2023 that we were going to attempt to do this. And to your point, Whitney, about like advocating for yourself, our first round of IVF failed, which is crazy because I had no problems getting pregnant, but I had extremely low AMH. Like my AMH was that of a 47-year-old at 31.
Oh.
And so the first clinic that I worked with used frozen sperm. They did all these things that just weren't the best, most tailored solution for someone with my situation. And so we got 0 embryos, and I advocated for myself. We switched clinics. I went to Boston, which is not where I live. I live in Chicago, and found another clinic that would tailor solutions. And we got 5 embryos.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I still, sometimes I still can't really believe that like how many times our life has been at a fork, where we've been like, the one route is like stay on your path and continue where you've been. And the other option is deviate and do something crazy and move to Boston for a few weeks. And obviously that was the right decision for us. We knew that having those 5 embryos at least gave us options. They're not tested. We chose not to test any of them. So they were like day 1 frozen, which when Janna and I first matched, she was like, I've never heard of that. And I was like, yeah, I hadn't either, but it seems like it's going to be fine. Yeah, we were pretty committed to the path right away.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. It's so funny whenever you said you're from a finance background, and I keep hearing all of this like math and statistics and okay, we're going to have, our to-do list
Yeah.
and like look at, just all of the things. But I think at that point when, like you said, you're in that fork, you're like, okay, let's take this head on. Let's figure this out. I love that. No, for sure. Janna, you've kind of shared that your own journey to becoming a mom wasn't easy. and I know you said you ended up needing fertility treatment to have your twins. How did that experience ever plant, the seed of surrogacy for you?
Yeah, so my husband was active duty Army when we began trying to have children. And we tried for a little over a year and were unsuccessful. There are a lot of stressors in that lifestyle of deployments and, a lot of timeline, like timing things out to make sure like this is going to work on this timeline. Um, but long story short, we were diagnosed with unexplained infertility, and which was kind of unsettling because we didn't have an answer of what was going on. And we did end up doing basically super ovulation shots or injections to basically up our chances of getting pregnant. So we just super ovulated and had timed intercourse. You're going to do this on this time, on this day. And it worked on the third try. It was our last try before having to do like full on IVF. And we were blessed with a boy and a girl, twins. And I would say that's probably what led me to surrogacy was, it had been a long time. My children are 8 now, and I only got to be pregnant one time, and I thoroughly enjoyed being pregnant. I loved being pregnant with the twins, but our family was very much complete. And I was just in this season of my life where, I wanted to experience that again and in return help somebody else on their journey. And if I'm completely honest, when I went into surrogacy, I was a little naive and I only thought people did this process because of infertility issues. I had no idea of all the barriers and other challenges that other people face that lead them to the path of needing a surrogate. And so reading the profiles and the stories of all the, health issues, cancer, organ transplants can't carry, all these different things and barriers that people go through. But I would definitely say like my own struggles first is what directed me into this path.
As you were going through those profiles, and both of you, as you kind of, both arrived here separately, how did you guys know, that this was the right match?
I don't know. I would say Brian, my husband, was very involved with the profiles.
Love that.
Because we were very much like, this is a big undertaking on me physically, but like as a family unit, like we're all involved in this process, right? And even though he's not carrying the baby or my children aren't carrying the baby, they still will be impacted by the choices that we're making here. And so Brian and I sat down and we were looking through profiles, and we basically were looking for somebody who were like, we could totally see like having dinner, hanging out with them, or, playing a board game or something. We wanted somebody. I didn't want it to be someone that I felt like I had to be somebody else, or like going to an interview or, going to a job or something. No, I wanted it to just be someone easy that, we could hang out with on a weekend. And so when we read Caroline and Matt's profile, Brian and I were like, yeah, these seem like pretty cool people. We can hang out with them. And then we actually involved Maple and Logan. We like showed them pictures, and we had explained to Maple and Logan in a very kid-friendly, way, this lady, we said like her belly is not able to carry a baby and she needs help. So the doctor's going to put her baby in mommy's belly, and then, we're going to help them grow it, and then we'll give it back. And, do you have any questions about that? And I said, we're going to meet them tonight and I'll ask your questions for you. And I'm trying to remember what their questions were. I think like, do they have a pet? What's their favorite color?
And they wanted to hold the baby. Remember, Janna? Maple asked if they could meet the baby.
Oh yeah, Maple had said, when you have the baby, Mom, will she let us hold the baby? Yeah, she did ask that. And so we got to ask those questions at the match meeting. And I think really Brian and I knew like right away. The coordinator says, okay, this was the end of the match meeting, go, be with each other and, talk it over. And we'll give you a few days and then you can let us know. And I would say it was pretty instant. As soon as we hit end on the Zoom call, Brian and I looked at each other and we're like, yep, that's good.
Yep, we're good.
We were the exact same. I think it was instantaneous, Jen. Totally the same on our end.
Yeah. It just felt right. It just felt, and looking back at our journey and all the things that you've gone through that led you to this process, Caroline and me, it has always felt like it just aligned. Like it was always supposed to be this way. And even though I didn't know Caroline when she was going through her health problems, it led us together. And it was like, it was always meant to be that way. I don't know. It's just special.
It makes me a little teary.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know this is a podcast and I'm supposed to stay understandable.
No, you're good.
So we were informed that we got a match about 3 weeks after our profile went live, and we were not expecting to match that quickly. We were being realistic. Like we knew that it could take a lot longer. It wasn't going to be our first baby, which I knew that some people had kind of given us the heads up that like in a scenario where the carrier gets to pick, a lot of carriers would rather be, giving someone their first child. And so we were like totally realistic about that. It could take a long time. Our terms were like, we were not going to, we were going to keep the baby unless they had a condition that was incompatible with life. So that was like one thing that we felt pretty strongly about, which I think maybe made the match a little faster because I think that there's a lot of carriers who are on the same page. But we matched on Mother's Day. We got our email saying we found you a match on Mother's Day, which was also my birthday, which is hard to, it's like still kind of hard to explain to me that worked out that way. And I opened the profile and my kids have red hair and they actually look more like Janna than they look like me, which is and so I saw Janna's profile and I was like, I mean, of course, like this is like, I read the rest of her profile and she talked about, how she's a teacher, she's a kindergarten teacher and her husband teaches kids with special needs. And I was like, I'm not sure I could have dreamt someone up in a lab that would have been a better fit for me, at least on paper. And then the minute we connected on Zoom, Matt and I looked at each other and we were like, this is a no-brainer. Like, this is totally the right person. And I agree, Janna, it really does. It wasn't my plan A, but it was like the most incredible plan B. And I feel really lucky.
It's crazy because our journey, like, I feel like we had this most beautiful journey and life still happened, right? Like all the chaos of everything when right after embryo transfer, a major hurricane was headed to Florida. So I was trying to fly back from Chicago and all the flights were getting canceled. And so, my family's down in Florida where this major hurricane's coming and I'm stuck in Chicago and, life just happened. But this like beautiful thing came out of it all, Caroline wasn't able to make it to the transfer because she was ill. During the pregnancy, during the pregnancy, I had a pipe burst in my house, like life happened. Right. But it was just this really cool, like connection and the most beautiful thing came out of it at the end. And it was awesome.
Oh my gosh. It's beautiful. And again, I couldn't have said it better myself, Caroline. I know it wasn't the plan A. And Janna, I know, this idea was so foreign for so long. And then to have it come together and exactly like you said, such beauty came from it. Can you guys tell me, tell me about delivery day. You have all this life happening and now we get to like the best part. Like, what did it feel like when baby was here?
Janna, you want to share the song you picked?
Okay, so I was very nervous about the C-section. I honestly was hoping to have a VBAC because I didn't get to experience that with the twins. And when we found out he was 9 pounds, 10 ounces at birth, I was very happy we did not do a VBAC. But In that moment, I was like, C-section was great. No, but I was very, very nervous. And I'm sitting there, and I made it very clear to all the staff, and they were so awesome there at the hospital. But I let them know, like, I'm very scared right now. And it was mostly because of the spinal tap. And I'm sitting there hunched over, and the anesthesiologist is, doing his work. And I'm crying because I'm very, very scared at this point. And the doctor is in front of me, and she's like, "Oh, you're doing a great job." And she's like, "So, Janna, what kind of music do you want me to play during the C-section?" And in my head, I'm thinking, music? Like, I am petrified right now. I can't even think of music right now. What are you talking about, music? And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I've got Spotify on my phone. I'll play whatever you want to hear." And so I'm like, I know she's just trying to calm me down. And I'm sitting there like, okay, music. And so all I could think of was Caroline's oldest daughter had called the baby throughout the whole pregnancy Zazu from Lion King. She's like, "My brother's going to be Zazu." So I'm sitting there, and that pops into my head. So I was like, would it be really weird if we played the Lion King soundtrack during the C-section? And she's like, "Absolutely. I love it." She's like, "We're totally doing this." And so they get me all on the operating table, and I'm all set up. And so they're bringing in, we were so lucky. We got to have Caroline, Matt, and my husband all come into the delivery room or the OR. And, so they're walking in, and it's that song like, "Zaz, it's like the intro to Lion King. And I knew Caroline would know. And she's like, "Janna, did you pick this?" And I was like, "I did." And the timing of the soundtrack actually was perfect. I don't know if you remember this, but when he actually came out, it was the song "I Just Can't Wait to Be King," and like we were born. It was so, but
He was enormous, so it really kind of worked nicely.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Have we done like the whole like Simba moment, like holding up the baby
there's
yet?
a picture. There's a picture because he was taken out, via C-section. Like he was an enormous baby. Like he was nearly 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And the doctor was holding him up while "I Just Can't Wait to Be King" is playing. It was pretty perfect.
Yeah. Right before I went into the OR, I had asked the doctor, because I said, this is what they had said on the ultrasound. How accurate is that? Do you really think he's going to be that heavy? Or like, what do you think? And she was like, "Well, once I get you on the operating table and I feel your belly," she's like, "I'll be able to tell you if it's going to be a big baby." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." So when she laid me down, she goes, "Yeah, Janna, I think this is going to be a pretty big baby." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then when he came out, everyone was like, "Oh, wow, he's a big baby." And I heard Caroline saying it. I hear the anesthesiologist saying it. And I'm like, "Well, how big is he?" Like, because I can't see anything. I have the curtain up. And then when they yelled out 9 pounds, 10 ounces, I was like, 9 pounds, 10 ounces. Holy moly.
You know what? That almost feels so good, because I feel like there can be some of that, disappointment, right? Of like, wanting that feedback. And then whenever you hear like, "Oh no, this was a great decision," and you just keep hearing everybody reiterate what a great decision it was.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a big baby.
Yep. He came out very healthy, perfect, pink, like and still to this day, we're at, week 15 or something, completely perfect, like no health issues, perfect little baby. And we didn't do any genetic testing. So we weren't totally sure like what we would end up with, right? Like we were okay with whatever, but we really had no idea. And he's perfect. He's our perfect little Zazu.
I think you said also, Caroline, that you guys weren't even anticipating it working the first time, right?
No, I mean, we did not test our embryos. So we had done all this research on having low AMH, and without throwing out bunk medical science, because I'm not going to be able to quote it perfectly. Our team at Brigham, which was in Boston, basically said that, given that you have low ovarian reserve, there's this fall off rate as you wait to get to day 5 to a blastocyst. And they don't necessarily know if healthy embryos might be falling off on that period of waiting between day 1 and day 5. Mm-hmm. So she was like, "We'll freeze them day 1. And then when you're ready to do a transfer, we'll thaw to day 3, make sure they have the right number of cells, and then we'll implant." And she was like, each one probably has a 30% success rate. Just given they're not tested, they're transferring early. So we were like so mentally prepared for it not to work that we got a puppy. So if that gives you any indication of how certain we were that it wouldn't work. And you know, she's a good dog, but boy, we did not plan that well. She's one, and she's like, you know, she's playing fourth fiddle because we've got now 3 kids. But when Janna took that pregnancy test, uh, it was almost like I go back to that luckiest unlucky person. You know, like so many things in my life, I've been the 0.5% on the lucky side. And so it makes sense that occasionally I'd be the 0.5% on the unlucky side. So it makes everything a little bit easier to understand when you think about it that way.
Yeah. I just knowing again, like you did all this research, you're anticipating, worst case scenario, and you have the facts on your side with it's, 30% and I have low ovarian. I mean, you have all of these reasons to, really just not, like you said, not think that, things are going to work out, and you're planning accordingly. And it's such a uncontrollable process. Just knowing that about yourself, Caroline, how did you kind of trust in this, whole journey?
I think it goes back to me saying that I've become more of that kind of woo-woo person. I think the old version of me, the pre-breast cancer version of myself, would have had a really hard time not being in control. Like my entire life is me trying to control everything. At least that's what it was prior to my diagnosis. I was really upset when we got pregnant with our second, because I was like, this isn't the 22-month age gap that I wanted. And, in the end, like life has its own plan and you kind of have to figure out how to deal with it. But the version of me that matched with Janna was totally prepared for this. And I think that I realized that, yes, there are downsides to not being able to carry your own baby, right? Like feeling him kick every day I was worried I was going to miss that a lot, but Janna was so communicative. She would send me videos of his little feet punching her in the stomach. And, I think that we had a really good communication cadence. Like I never felt like Janna was texting me too much or not texting me enough. Like I don't exactly know how we figured all that out without saying it, but for some reason it was just a really good pairing. Like I never felt sad. I mean, I went to a few appointments. I flew down to Florida for a few of the appointments so that I could see him on the ultrasound. But honestly, I felt like I was able to enjoy the fact that I wasn't pregnant because Janna was so communicative that I was like, this is actually okay. I'm okay with it. And I've always said, once the baby's born, nobody really knows how they got here. Like they know as much as you're willing to tell them. And so I pretty much tell everyone now that we had our little guy via carrier. But when we were going through the process, I was like, am I going to feel weird about the fact that I carried my first 2 and then I couldn't carry my third? Like, is he going to think that I didn't want him or something? I don't know, something like that. It didn't really make sense, but I was worried about all these different scenarios. And what I've actually come to realize is that like he has a whole another family. Like Janna and Brian and Maple and Logan are like, we're seeing them in March. Like he's the luckiest kid in the world. And Lulu and Bear, my other 2 kids, are obsessed with Maple and Logan. They call them the big kids. So I think that if you view things only kind of like in a myopic way, like only from the perspective of someone who is fighting this process, it would probably be harder. But this was our shot to have more kids. And so I don't know, I guess we took on a more positive light and it became something really amazing.
I have friends all the time, or people that I encounter, who find out that I did this and they just are beside themselves. They're like, how could you do this? And how can you just hand over the baby and not, have this, emotional attachment? And I think like you have to go into it with the right mindset, of course. But I tell them all the time, like, of course I miss him and I miss Caroline and Matt and the kids. I miss them, and like those are like my best friends, kind of way, but not like in a maternal, I need my baby kind of way, because he's not my baby. And we knew this all going into it. It's just, I think a lot of people don't understand it until they've gone through this experience too. Yeah.
Yeah. I always explain it with it's not giving up, it's giving back.
Right.
And the most thrilling part is, of course, we love to see baby and we love our Lion King moment. But it's not it the best part is seeing baby with their parents.
Of course. Yeah.
That's
It's
what
like the full circle.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, Janna, going back to, we touched on it earlier. We have our whole Lion King moment. Little Zazu is here.
That's
Um,
not his actual name, just so you know.
yeah, full disclosure. Full disclosure. Yes, that is not his name. Yes.
It should
But
totally be his Halloween costume, though.
oh my
Yeah, that's
gosh.
a good idea, Janna. I actually hadn't thought of that.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. You've already alluded to it, but Janna, can you kind of share a little bit of your story as far as, just having to advocate for yourself?
Yeah, so we had a pretty uneventful journey being a surrogate, and I was really scared to have another C-section. I did have some issues during my C-section where the spinal tap rose too high. I felt like I couldn't breathe, so I had a little anxiety in that aspect. But delivering as a surrogate, the whole experience was amazing. I left the hospital very full. My heart was full, very happy for Caroline and Matt, and everything was just picture perfect. And then I came home and my blood pressure started to rise, and I had called the doctor, and she's told me not to really worry about it. I had a lot going on at home. My husband was getting ready to leave for a few weeks for the Army, and I was pretty stressed out about that, being that I just delivered a baby and I was going to be home with my own twins by myself, and just had a lot going on. And I just kept saying, well, I just had a baby, that's why I'm feeling this way. Or my husband's leaving, that's why I'm feeling this way. Or I have 2 kids to take care of, a house to take care of, that's why I'm tired, and feeling this way. But something, my blood pressure kept rising, and then something in me just kept telling me, like, keep checking it. And again, I kept excusing it. My neighbor actually came over to my house at night. I think she was kind of worried about me. And she's told me, she's like, we're here for you. If you want to go to the hospital, we'll go. And I was like, no, I think we're okay. And my daughter actually wanted to sleep with me that night because my husband was gone. And it's about a 45-minute drive from my house. Went to the emergency room. I was instantly taken back once they took my blood pressure. The doctor came running in and she was like, you're not going anywhere. You're being admitted. I'm going to be very frank with you. You have postpartum preeclampsia, which I never had during pregnancy. So I had no idea that this could happen afterwards.
Yeah.
She's like, we're going to do a head CT to check for a brain bleed. Like, we need to get you started on medication right away. And all of this stuff. And I just kept thinking, like, gosh, if I didn't decide to go in, if I didn't listen to that little internal voice saying, like, let's just go get this checked out. I mean, who knows? I could have had a stroke or
right.
like that.
I see just that theme of the both of you just again trying to convince yourself. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, as moms, we don't want anything to be wrong. Like, we don't have time for anything to be wrong. And again, just that continuing to listen to that intuition. Okay. So, like, you kind of had already gotten us started, Janna, with, we have this beautiful delivery moment, and then post delivery, it's, okay, we've got deployment coming up, and, just life in general. And you you knew that something was wrong. We're in the hospital. How did you kind of reconcile, this almost kind of, push away, it's not that big of a deal, to now all of a sudden, like, we're in the thick of it and we've got to figure this out?
So for me, it was really like when I went to go lay down, and Maple's already asleep because I was going to bed after her. But I just kept telling myself, oh my goodness, if something happens and nobody else is here and then she were to find me, like, that would just be horrible. So I go to the hospital, find out the whole diagnosis. I'm in there. My sister actually came. My sister was actually also pregnant with her first child, and she delivered 3 weeks after me. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, she came to the hospital to stay with me while I was in the hospital recovering, and they had me on a magnesium drip to like help lower the blood pressure and all that kind of stuff. But to be honest, the thing that was really upsetting, and something I had to like accept, was that, Caroline and I were talking about possibly doing a sibling journey, and the self-realization of like, oh man, now this is probably not going to happen now because of this complication, and trying to focus on my health while also, your hormones are out of whack. You just had a baby. My husband's gone. I'm away from my family now. And then also trying to like, emotionally accept like, okay, this is probably not going to happen again, even though we had already talked, about all these plans, and coming to terms with that. But also realizing that even though I can't do that, I have definitely done enough, and I've done a beautiful thing, and that's okay. Even though I can't experience this amazing experience, and anyone who is interested in being a surrogate, definitely do your research and reach out to someone and get more information, because it has probably been one of the most meaningful things I've ever done in my life. And I would do it hands down in a heartbeat again if I could. But just, talking to myself and acknowledging that even though the journey didn't end the way I was hoping it would, that it could continue in that sense, that it's okay and that it's enough,
Oh, more than enough, Janna. More than enough.
For sure. But it's so hard, especially, right? Like both of you both had these pictures of, how either your family was going to be created, Caroline or Janna, what, you guys were going to do together, after and moving forward. And it's so hard to reconcile all of that and make that shift. But at the same time, especially when you're in the thick of it, it's, I've got to do the thing that's right for me and right for my family. And
exactly. Yeah. I just kept telling myself, my children need a happy, healthy mom also. And so I've got to make sure that my health is at the forefront also. And then I'm making sure that I'm okay because they need a mom too. So.
And Janna's also been pumping and providing breast milk for our little Zazu. Our son has only had breast milk. So like, to say that delivering him was all you did, Janna, oh my gosh, you're also keeping him healthy with your kindergarten teacher antibodies, which he's never been sick. So I'm certain that's why. Like it's just, and Janna's family is going to come visit us in March. Like we're still very much connected. I think that, it would have been amazing to have another sibling journey with Janna, but like this is how things were meant to play out, and now we have like friends. So, and our little guy has another set of big kid siblings, and so do our other kids. So it's worked out really nicely for us, and I'm so glad Janna's healthy now. When Janna texted me in the middle of the night saying that she was going to the hospital, I was like, "Good for you for listening to yourself." This is.
She's like, you could have probably just saved your own life. Like,
yes. I think that there's a moment where each of us will probably have to save our own lives, and it's better to learn that earlier rather than later so that you can, share that story and share the wisdom with other people.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, both of your stories, there's resiliency, there's advocacy, there's hope. What do you want other women to take away when it does come to listening to their bodies and trusting our own instincts?
So for me, like with what specifically happened with the postpartum preeclampsia, I had no idea that even could happen after birth. Like I knew it was something that happened during pregnancy, and I knew you could have, blood pressure issues afterwards. But I guess going back to what we talked about before, it's so easy as someone who just has delivered a baby or a new mom or someone who's taking care of their kids to come up with all these excuses as to why it's okay that you're feeling this way, but to really, take a step back and make sure that you're okay too, that it's okay to not be okay, and to go and check on it to make sure. Because I always think back of what if I was like, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm just recovering. I'm, all the things. And then it could have been a lot worse. So just making sure that you're okay is okay to do.
I think I would definitely second what Janna said. I also think for someone who is like me and is super numbers driven, um, statistical unlikeliness is not the same thing as impossible. And I think that was really hard for me to wrap my head around initially. And you get all those questions of like the why me, why, how did I end up getting breast cancer at 31? But the truth is, you've probably been like the 1% in something else that was good. And so I think realizing that statistical probabilities and numbers and likeliness, like, doesn't really mean anything when it comes down to like you're n of one, you're one person, and so I think for me that really helped because I was like, well, I mean, why wouldn't it have been me? Like, in terms of all the other things that have gone really well in my life, and where luck has been very involved, um, I don't know why I wouldn't be unlucky once in a while. And also knowing that treatment options are so much more advanced, even than 5 years ago. It would have been unheard of not to lose your hair in chemo. And not that that's the most important thing, but it did help me a lot to maintain normalcy. Like, not everyone knew that I was going through cancer treatment. I was walking around Boston going through IVF with two drainage, ports down my side, but I was wearing a cute vest and no one knew. So like, honestly, I think that I have a science degree, but I did not appreciate how much science could dramatically change your life in a way that would both keep me alive and give me a third child. So, when thinking about probabilities and science and logical and math, like, you have to factor in your feelings, and your gut instincts are important. Like, they're there for a reason. So yeah, while that's a little muddled, that would probably be my biggest takeaway.
With going along, that science, for anyone who's maybe just struggling with the idea of egg donation or surrogacy as a way to grow their family, or maybe it's something that they think they want to do and they're just not sure, what would you each want to say to that person to take that first step?
I would say, in terms of, I've talked to someone yesterday who was thinking about, she had an emergency hysterectomy after her second and had kind of always wanted three, but her husband's like, we have two healthy kids. Why would we keep going? Like, we're good. I think you have to think about what you want your life to look like in 10 years or 15 years, not now. Like, now, yes, two kids is hard. Like, in truth, like, having the two kids that we had was challenging. And I was like, I don't know how we're going to make this work, but we're in it for the party. Like, I want the party where it's just my family. That was what I had always wanted. And I think, like I said, I played college golf. And so I always think of, there's no pictures on a scorecard. And that's very similar to building your family. It doesn't matter how you get there, but the Christmas card picture in 10 years is what you want, right? Like, that's how your family is in 10 years. It doesn't matter how you got there. It doesn't matter the road it looked like to get there, right? In golf, like, it doesn't matter if you hit a terrible shot. As long as you end up with a good score, that's all that matters. I guess that would be my biggest piece of advice. Like, think about how you want your life to look, not necessarily, this moment right now.
Yeah, I would just say, like, I think, like, small great things, right? This small moment, this small part of my life, this little chapter that I've done is going to have this huge, profound, lasting impact on Caroline and Matt's life. But also, like, there's a human now, right? And he's going to grow up and he's going to do amazing things. And it's all because of this small thing that I've helped them do. And I just think that that's, just really meaningful and touching. And yeah, I would just say small, big things.
Yeah, for sure. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. No, and I couldn't agree more. Okay, ladies, you guys have given me so much of your time, and you have, I mean, again, just such beautiful stories, and I so appreciate the candor and vulnerability. I have one last question for you, and it's a fun one. You guys have seen me this entire time sipping my lovely cup of coffee, and for anyone who knows me, I hardly go anywhere without one. So I love to ask the question, what has filled your cup today? Literally or figuratively, what has been the thing to fill your cup?
I can go first if you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm
I'll do
thinking.
literal. This is punch in the face nitro cold brew, which my daughter thinks is the funniest thing in the entire world. It's like a llama that I guess like llamas kick. I don't know. It's a very strong nitro cold brew. I
I
love
love
them.
it.
I get them way too often. They're kind of expensive, but I'm like, it's worth it. I'm not going to Whole Foods or to Starbucks, whatever. I'm just getting a coffee at Whole Foods. So I'll interpret you literally and say canned nitro cold brew.
I have
So,
never heard of that. Oh my
oh,
goodness.
it's very good. I drink a little bit off the top and then I add a little half and half. Makes it a little bit more easy to drink.
Okay. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to try that. That's a good insider
You'll
tip
remember
too.
punch in the face. It's pretty punchy.
Pretty, yeah,
Logan
yeah.
would think that's hilarious.
I feel like that falls in the category of like the liquid death water. Of like
Oh
you
yeah.
like do like a double take and you're like, wait, what is that?
Similar concept. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
I guess for me, we're getting ready for the holidays right now, and I'm very much like a Christmas person. I love Christmas. And I'm the crazy person who wants to put their tree up like right now.
I would like
And
to note that it is September at this juncture that we are having this
yes,
conversation.
Wait, but Janna found a creative way to get her tree up.
yes.
You got to share.
So I have every year I beg Brian. He's like, oh, it's too early. You're crazy. We're not doing that. He's like, always puts his foot down. I'm like, please, it's just so pretty. Why can't we enjoy it longer?
We want pretty
Well,
things.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, this year he was like, go ahead, Janna, just put the tree up. I think he was just tired of me asking. And I was like, wait, are you serious right now? And he's like, just put it up. Well, we went to put it up, and Maple, my daughter, she was like, what? It's not Christmas time. We still have Halloween and Thanksgiving. And what are you doing? And I was like, oh my, I can't rob her of her childhood holiday, experiences by putting the Christmas tree up too early. So we started decorating the house. The tree is up, but it is wrapped in a white sheet, and it's decorated as a ghost right now.
It's
So
amazing. It looks like a ghost. It's genius.
it's a giant
Tell
ghost.
me you're a kindergarten teacher without telling me you're a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah. So it's a giant ghost, and we've been decorating for Halloween. And I actually got some canvas prints done of when they were younger, and I printed out all these pictures of like years past when they're in their Halloween costumes, and put them on the TV stand. And I've just been in my thoughts reminiscing of all the memories we've had and all the years of them growing up, and seeing their excitement this year. And even though it's so different, I watch these little videos when they have these squeaky voices like, oh look, there's a pumpkin. Their excitement for the holidays is so different now, but it's still just as special. And I don't know, that just fills my cup.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the best. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And I am definitely going to be thinking about that ghost Christmas tree for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a picture of that.
Good.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well,
It's great.
oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, again, I love it. I feel like, Caroline, your holiday is about to be that party that, you're just gunning for. And Janna, that's a beautiful way to just, continue to look back on just all of the amazing things that you have done and those memories that you've created with your family, and then moving forward with all of those. That's so beautiful. I love that. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been just absolutely amazing. And I'm so happy that we're here, and that all of those lucky, unlucky things brought us to this moment.
That's right.
Like the most beautiful mess.
That's right.
The most beautiful mess.